Hey guys, hope your day is going good. So today we're going to continue building our React application. So we're going to go to create a new terminal. And to create our terminal, we're going to type in npx, not npm. So we're going to type in npx create React app. Let's call the app calculator. So in order for you to do this, you need to download Node.js. So just go to Google Node installation, download Node.js, and you can download it for Windows or Mac OS. Okay, we still have our React app installing, and that's the folder right there. That's the app calculator. So I'm going to pause this and wait for it to be done. Okay, now it's finished. So I'm going to clear it and then cd into the folder, into the app calculator. Then type in npm start to run the app. So it's come up any moment. There you go, our React app. So I'm going to adjust this so you can see what we're doing. Okay. So now what we're going to do is we're going to delete some files. I'm going to delete app.css because we don't really need it for the application. And also we're going to delete app.test.js. Also logo SVG and setup test.js. So we're going to copy everything in the body tag. Right? I'm going to go to our return and replace the HTML in there with our HTML in our body. Right? We'll go to the top and erase those two because we don't need them anymore. There you have it. So we're going to go into the public file and go to index.html. So we're going to first of all edit the title. We're going to give it a name, React calculator. And then we're going to remove the line on line 30. We don't need that. let's go back to our index.html and copy everything from line 4 to line 7. So everything just before the title and before our link index.css. Then go back to the HTML in public file. Now we're going to fix indentation. Save that. Oh, as you can see, all calculators coming together. So the next thing I was going to do is edit the index.css in the React app with our own. So go to our own index.css, copy and paste. Okay. So from the body class, we're going to take out those two and put it in our own body. Then erase that, then save it. There you go. Our calculator looks good. So I'm going to add this one last thing, the root ID. I'm going to make height 100%. That's the root ID. That's the root ID there in the HTML tag. So then we're going to now go into our React app. We'll expand this here so we can see what we're editing. So now I'm going to make a function operator type. So on click equals to operator type. So when it's clicked, it takes us to that function. So I'm going to copy and paste for the remaining operators. I'm just going to remove that there, the values. We don't really need that. You can do the rest if you want. Then I'm going to make another function called impute num. So it takes in the number that's imputed on click. So I'm going to do it for the rest. And for our AC button, the reset button, I'm going to give it a reset. And for our equals, we're going to make it equals. So right here, we're going to make 4 functions: operator type, impute type, reset, and equals. So we're going to first of all edit the screen. Go change the tag from impute to a div tag, and then just copy and paste the class. Calculator screen. I'm going to render an impute. a variable called input that shows all the buttons that are pressed and calculations. So we're going to be using hooks. So hooks allows you to use states and other React features without writing a class, right? So we're going to create input, set input. So that's going to be the first hook. So input is the variable, then set input is how you set the variable's input. So I'm going to do use state default value is 0. So, but we need to import it first. So we're going to import use state. I'm also going to import use effect. So use state allows you to create a piece of state without switching to a class, and use effect tells React what your component needs to do to do after rendering. So basically tells your app what to do after the page has loaded. So I'm going to create another variable prestate, set prestate. Then we're going to make the default value an empty string. And also we're going to create current state. So we're going to have the current state and the previous state to help with our calculation. I'm going to make that an empty string too. Then we're going to have operator. We're going to set default to null. Lastly, we're going to create another hook, total. So now we're creating our first function, input num. So input num accepts an event. So the first line, we're going to make sure that the user can only input dot once. So we're going to say current state includes a full stop, and if the inner text also includes a full stop, then just return. So the next one is to check if total is true, and if it's true, set the pre-states to an empty string, indicating that we're done with our calculation. So now we're going to check if there is a current state. We're going to set current state to the previous element in the current state and append it to the inner text. So this means if I type in a 7, it saves the current state. I type 7 again, it appends it. So now my server is now at 77. So it allows you to append numbers together. But if there's no current state, set the current state to the element in the inner text. We're going to set total to false. So now the next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to do two things that should happen after our app has loaded. And the first one is when the app loads, you set the input to 0. So we're going to use effect. I'm going to set input to 0. And for the second parameter, we return nothing. And the other one is we need to check anytime the current state changes, to set the input to the current state. So we're going to set input to current state. And we're going to make the second parameter current state. So we're going to work on the next function. Reset. So reset sets the pre-state to an empty string. Basically resets everything. Then sets the current state to an empty string too. And sets input to 0. Now we're going to initialize the equals function. It accepts an event, and if there's an event, and targets dot inner text is equals to 0 equals to, then set total to true, meaning we're done with our calculation. So then we're going to initialize the next function, operator type. So it accepts an event, sets total to false, we're going to set operator to the inner text. I'm going to check if current is equal to an empty string. Do nothing, just return. If pre-state is not equal to an empty string, Then we're going to call equals function. Else, we're going to set the pre-state to the current state and set the current state to an empty string. We're done with that. So the next thing we're going to do now is the calculations. So we're going to create three variables here. So let's calculation, division, and multiplication. Those are the three variables we're going to create. You would see why in a moment. So we're going to make a switch case, the accept operator. We're going to check if the case is division first. Go to set division is equals to pass floats. This changes the strings to a float so we can perform calculation. So we're dividing pre-states by current states. Then once that is done, we're going to check if the division has decimal places. If it's not equals to 0, if div modulus 1 not equals to 0, it means it has decimal place. Then we're going to do div dot to fixed. So this is how we round numbers. So we kind of make it to 3 or 4 decimal places, right? So checking if the calculation has decimal places. Else, calculation is equals to the string version of div. So if there's no decimal place, no need to do any rounding. Then we break. Then we're going to check the next case for multiplication. So mul is equals to parse floats pre-states times parse floats current states. We'll do the same thing again. Check if that calculation has a decimal place. So if calculation will be equals to mul dot to fixed 3 decimal places. Else calculation is equals to the string version of mul. Break. Then we're going to check for the other cases, plus and negative, addition and negative. So here, I didn't see the need to check for decimal places. You can implement that if you like. So I'm going to say pass floats pre-states plus current states. Break. Then I'm going to do the same for subtraction. So calculation is equals to string pass floats pre-states minus pass floats current states. Then I'm going to break, I think. Then default will just return nothing. Right? So all that calculation was supposed to be the inside the equals function, which makes sense. Sorry about that. I'm now going to fix the indentation. So after the calculation, I'm going to set input to an empty string. Then I'm going to set pre-state to calculation. I'm going to set current state to an empty string. And there you have it. Let's see what we can do now. So I can append numbers, right? Can clear them. So anytime I do a calculation, it doesn't show that to me. And that's because we're not passing our pre-states as inputs. But before we do that, we're going to install another package. So go to the plus sign there, make another terminal, and cd into calculator. And then we're going to install number format. So we're going to say npm I React number format. Okay, that's done. So let's go at the top of our React app and import it. So let's go down to our HTML tags. So input, we're going to say if input is not equals to an empty string or input is equals to 0, we're now going to do number format. Value is going to be equals to input. So display type is text. I'm going to also put in 1,000 separator. So when it gets to, so you can see those commas. I just keep adding more zeros or adding more elements. Then I'm going to close the tag. Else, we're going to display our calculation from the pre-states. So value is going to be equals to pre-state. Display type text. Thousand separator. We're going to close the tag. I'm going to save that. I'm going to expand this and now see. You can now see the calculations. So in our next video, we're going to host this app so that you can see it from anywhere. Thank you guys for watching. Have a good day.